Hello and welcome to the Jordan Peterson podcast. I'm here with comedy sensation Matt Rife, one of the bad boys of stand-up comedy who's got people mad at him.
I guess I'll be Matt Rife.
Oh, I didn't. Oh,
whoever he wants
we
to
don't
do
do impressions. Yeah, I thought you were banking on a sick Matt Rife impression.
No, I guess I would just be like, these SJWs got me mad tight. You know.
I thought that was a bit everybody was doing. I didn't know he talked like that until I watched the special.
Yeah, I guess he does. But I guess a lot of Gen Z does it.
Yeah,
it's like their thing. Anyway, welcome to the After Smokes podcast, everybody. Sorry, I thought we'd do a little cold open, but you get the gist of what we're doing. Welcome back. We hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fine.
Yeah.
Days around it were better, I think. Thanksgiving itself,
yeah,
they were cool.
I invited Sean, and he said, "No thanks. I don't want to be around your family."
I said I don't want to spend my day off on a train for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So instead, I just sat in my apartment alone.
Did you eat anything?
Wanted to kill myself. I did actually. No.
Really?
I got a.
You just didn't eat?
No. I got a. There's a diner near me that actually did like a really good Thanksgiving, like 4-course thing. You give them $50 or $55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I wish you were there because I got into an argument with my uncle about just wars in general, and it ended up being like 6-on-1. But I held my own pretty well.
You wanted me to fact check your uncle?
I wanted you to fact check my uncle.
Which is like this fucking weird, quiet, anorexic guy shows up to your Thanksgiving and starts fucking arguing with your family.
Yeah.
Mike thinks that would help his cause. Who's this twink?
Just the guy who hasn't said anything all night and just didn't really eat anything.
He's nervous.
You're
all fighting.
He's got to go to the bathroom and start hyperventilating.
Like half a piece of pumpkin pie, and I'm like, oh man, I'm full.
Yeah. Just turkey, no gravy, no cranberry sauce. But I told my uncle that he didn't see any combat when he was stationed in Germany during the Vietnam War.
Oh.
And he was like, "Oh, really?" He was like, "I would have gone if they'd asked me to."
But that's good though.
So
it's like, oh wow, you didn't kill any innocent people, you coward.
Yeah, but they're so bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
You know, they love going to war, and then it's like it's over so fast. You sit in traffic, you eat dinner, and then you go home. But Friday morning, Deb went to she does Black Friday with her mom. So she woke up at like 5 a.m. to go to a mall in Jersey to hang out with her mom. But she took Benjamin with her, so I woke up around 9 and I went and I got a coffee and then I said, I think I can go see a movie.
Yeah.
And I said, who the hell am I going to a movie?
Matinee?
Yeah, like a noon. I went to a noon showing of Flower Moon. Didn't have any seats, so but Napoleon was available, so I went and I saw Napoleon. I went to a movie, if you can believe it.
There's a reason why one of those was sold out and the other one wasn't.
Yeah. So you and Johnny saw it yesterday.
Me and Johnny saw it. Our producer Johnny, a good guy.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think?
He brought me some wings. Bought me some wings.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, the movie itself, like, it's watchable. I was like entertained watching it, but it's just the reality of Napoleon Bonaparte is you can't tell his life if you're gonna do it from like the beginning of his rise to power to like his exile and death. You just can't do it in 2.5 hours.
Right.
You have to condense too much, and so the choices that Ridley Scott makes to condense and to just like essentially every battle in the movie, if you've watched the trailer, you've already seen all the action. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's like the majority of the movie is, oh, so this guy's like a school shooter in revolutionary France.
Right.
And he fell in love with this ran-through girl and gets cucked by her. It's like, well, that was interesting, but that wasn't really the story of Napoleon.
Right. Now, I was really excited because did you see The Last Duel?
I really liked The Last Duel.
I love The Last Duel.
And that's what made me excited for it, because it's like I saw, The Last Duel bombed because it came out during COVID. And so I saw it on an airplane, and I watched it. I was like, Ridley Scott is back.
Yeah.
This is a great movie. And it's a smart movie, too. Like, as far as like modern Hollywood shit goes. It's a
Right,
smart movie.
right.
So I thought,
Because I think people are starting to wake up that a lot of times women lie about, that stuff.
that's the underlying message.
Yeah. Because right before Adam Driver gets, spoiler alert, knife through the throat, he goes, "There was no."
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was really well done.
I said the F word. I don't know if we have to edit that for. We're not on 10 minutes yet.
What F word?
Oh,
No, we're not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If we want to make money off you, the listener, I'm sorry. But you might hear a bleep there. All right, but anyways, regardless, the point was that the movie The Last Duel was good, and it was relatively smart. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Ridley Scott can approach this great subject with 3 dimensions and kind of.
What is The Last Duel about? I didn't see it.
It's these knights in the Middle Ages, and Matt Damon is and they tell you each person's version of the story. So Matt Damon is this knight, and then he has a wife, and then Adam Driver, this world we live in, grapes his wife.
You don't want to get demonetized.
Yeah, I don't want to get demonetized. So
he raped Damon's wife.
So he graped her probably in the PU $$Y and the A $$. She was violently graped. Damn. This is so stupid. This is so stupid.
Yeah. What, that we can't swear for the first 10
We should be
minutes?
working in a coal mine, the three of us. We should all be on an oil rig instead of doing this, instead of censoring ourselves. But guys, just like I said, 3.5 more minutes and we can say the full word. But they tell Matt Damon's story.
Ridley Scott.
But they tell Matt Damon's story, and then when they tell Adam Driver's version of the story, it's then Matt Damon is revealed to be this kind of brute, Because at first you're like, oh, that's the guy who was defending his honor and his wife. But then in the other version they go, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah. They tell 3 different perspectives. So you get Adam Driver, Matt Damon's, and then the woman who was raped.
Yeah.
You get her perspective as well, and then they fight a duel over it. And it kind of deals with
She was raped and she was also pineappled. That's not code for something else.
it is the first 10 minutes of a YouTube podcast is waiting to get out of your prison sentence.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking of when I get home, all the slurs I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's it's like waiting for school to be over on June 16th. The bell rings and you go, boop.
But yeah.
But anyway, so Last Duel was great.
Last Duel was great, and
Yeah.
it was and it kind of dealt with that patriarchal society, and I guess there was maybe if you want to be critical of it, there's a bit of moralizing, a bit of putting contemporary values onto these medieval values, but he didn't go over the top with it. It was it was a very good movie. Recommended. I loved it, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I was excited to go into Napoleon.
And it's funny that Ben Affleck kind of got the bad role in that. He's like the Lord with the bowl haircut.
Yeah.
The other guys are playing knights that kill each other.
I love those movies where guys with bowl haircuts, because it's set in medieval world, beautiful women are interested in them.
Yeah.
This is my kind of movie. This is the kind of movie star we need more of. We need more dudes with bowl cuts to become Hollywood sex symbols.
Right.
Ben Affleck, if you're listening, I will pay you money. I mean, you have way more money than me, but I'll suck you off.
Yeah.
Right. Sucked off by Sean.
If you want to just wear a bowl cut in public and bring it back.
Imagine he gets word he's getting BLOWN by Jennifer Lopez, and he just hears that you want to suck his dick. And he tracks us down.
Yeah, well, who could blame him?
Yeah. 1 more minute, guys, and we can curse.
Yeah. Unlike your Latina wife, I don't give a f where you were last night. Gotta censor both of those.
Yeah.
We're never gonna monetize this podcast.
No. We are. Just don't worry. But anyway, so let's get into the.
Well, yeah. But that's just to finish the Last Duel thought.
Yeah.
It was just that's. Especially compared to Napoleon. It's a smart movie. It's a 3-dimensional movie. And then you see Napoleon and it's just the most 2D cutout, BS. And there were parts of the Romance with Josephine I liked, which we could talk about in a second. But Napoleon, the character, as played by Joaquin Phoenix, it's just an abomination. It is literally British propaganda.
Yeah.
Which you have to remember, Ridley Scott is an Anglo.
Right.
And Stanley Kubrick was going to make a Napoleon movie, but then the Anglo-occupied government assassinated him to keep the real story from coming out. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of the listeners probably heard this, but Stanley Kubrick, like, a lot of the research he did on Napoleon, it went into his movie Barry Lyndon, which is obviously a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. But Kubrick had like index cards with every single day of Napoleon's life while he was on camp, like what he was doing every day. Like that's the scale of research Kubrick did. Though good news is apparently Steven Spielberg is working with HBO. They're going to make it.
Kubrick was so dedicated to his movies, he had those index cards, and he made Shelley Duvall eat dog food every day when they were filming The Shining. That's just how dedicated to his craft he was.
He brings her on for the Napoleon movie and like psychologically tortures her, then cuts all her scenes.
Yeah. I heard that the guy Scatman Crothers from The Shining, he was like Kubrick had him like on the verge of tears because he was like, I don't know what else you want from me, Mr. Kubrick.
Yeah, because he made him do like 100 takes.
Like 100 takes, yeah. And then when that same guy, when he worked with Clint Eastwood did like 4 takes. He was like, are you serious? That's it?
But yeah, so Kubrick had a script for a Napoleon movie, which HBO's probably, or as of this year, they've announced they're going to turn it into a 7-part miniseries, which is good. But it's like obviously it'll never be as good as what Kubrick would have done with the subject,
right? And
that's another thing. You watch the Ridley Scott Napoleon movie, and then you watch Barry Lyndon by Kubrick. There's so much color; it's so bright, and this is another thing. Like a lot of people were complaining about, but they're not wrong. It's like Napoleon in a lot of movies these days is just very gray, very bland. It's just not very beautiful to look at.
Yeah,
you can't really get lost in the majesty of that era.
Dumbness. Right. You forget it's like they all dressed like Sergeant Peppers and like the colors were part of it.
But yeah, no, and like ultimately this is relatively true in that the English won. And they dominated the world, and then the U.S., us the Americans, we took over their empire. And the world is a worse place for that. Napoleon was the good guy, and so all of history since then has been English people slandering Napoleon and lying about him.
Right.
So Ridley Scott gets $200 million to make this hit piece about Napoleon.
Okay.
Which, like, I could forgive if the movie was entertaining, or at least, like, coherent, not condensed, not rushed, but... had a lot of problems.
Well, I did like that they made him a simp.
Right.
Because I think that's fine. Everybody's going to be a simp at some point.
Well,
no matter who you are.
There were nice scenes. Like I liked when he was like, after he finds out, Josephine is like cheating on him with some French officer.
Yeah.
He still marries her and like takes her out in public. Like that's definitely a real feeling of just being proud to show off your ran through girlfriend. Like when you like you meet a beautiful woman and she's so cool.
Yeah.
And of course she's cool. She's got
gonna be ran through.
She's got like 70 bodies. And you're just happy. Like I don't get
Dude,
guys.
I learned that lesson the hard way, like so hard with a different relationship. Just asking, you can't do that. You have to accept that every beautiful woman is ran through.
Yeah, you have to see them as land. The way Napoleon conquered land,
right?
Josephine conquered cock.
Right.
Yeah, they were just great at what they did.
Yeah. And you have to just accept that. And
I didn't even ask, but the most recent girl I was seeing, she gave me this number. She said it's less than 50. I'm like,
why did you ask?
I didn't ask.
Oh, you didn't ask? She just said that?
Yeah, because she. I told this on the Patreon. I think she has a list of every guy she's ever slept with, along with their fucking horoscope.
Right.
And so she knows how many names are on it. I don't want to, but then. Less than 50,
Yeah. Well,
that's 48.
It's like how many times Ehud Barak visited Jeffrey Epstein. It was more than 10, but less than 100.
But a 50 body count is really like normal.
It's pretty normal.
It is normal.
Yeah.
Not for me, but for people, it's normal.
Yeah.
For women, it's
in my head, I go 50. That's my whole life. Like you look at a life like Napoleon's, you go, I couldn't even fuck 50 girls.
Right.
Just like
if in
having a regular
Well,
job.
Scott falls in love. He has to be. He has to be madly in love for him to put
like
before,
Napoleon.
before he puts his dick in someone.
in 2023, if you meet a woman who has fucked 50 guys,
Uh-huh.
in medieval times she would be in a monastery. She would never have had sex.
Yeah, right.
That's the 2023 equivalent
Right,
of
right.
a nun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
It's so low.
And it's like, but yes, I liked that scene because it's
Yeah.
like there is, if you like your ran through girlfriend, like it's fine. It's
Yeah.
great. You do, and so you could see Napoleon very much enjoyed showing off. His
It's
ran
also
through
like
wife.
it's also not a deal breaker if you get cheated on.
It's not really no.
You know?
No, everybody.
If she's sorry,
yeah,
yeah.
no, like being cucked is not the end of the world.
Being cocked is not the end of the
all
world.
the great men of history.
Big cuck.
Napoleon was
Here's the
cucked.
thing: if you're gonna travel to other lands, your wife is gonna
Your
have
wife's
sex.
gonna
with
have
other
sex
people.
with other people.
What are you, a homebody? Like,
Right,
no.
Right.
You gotta go and get shit done.
Right. If you're gonna be out podcasting at 7:00 at night, chances
else
are
is-
your wife's gonna
You're gonna be gone for 2 hours.
You're out making
What else
history.
is she supposed to
and your
do?
wife's really good friends with Michael Che. You're really. I mean, what do you think is gonna happen?
All the great men
Yeah.
of history have been cucked. Napoleon, Sam Cooke.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I assume
Damn, you should have at least had a list of 5.
Yeah.
FDR by
Beethoven got cucked when he was in the room.
FDR got cucked by his lesbian wife. I don't know if it counts if she cucks you with a woman, but that definitely happened.
Do they talk about in the movie how when he went to Egypt, he was like looking for his Cleopatra? They
No.
don't talk about that
I
at
don't
all?
think
No,
so, 'cause
and they
he was-
also that's the thing. So it's like just generally with this movie, okay, 2.5 hours, not enough time, but they spend about half of it on the Josephine Napoleon romance, parts of which I actually did enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I think honestly, romance is harder to write than comedy, and comedy's like the second hardest thing to write,
Right.
Because romance is like. It's so hard to make it believable,
Right.
You know, like if you're watching a movie, that's why vast majority of rom-coms suck. Like,
Right.
It Happened One Night and Annie Hall are like the two best, and also maybe
Manhattan's good.
Manhattan's okay.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall is
Yeah.
surprisingly good.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall's good.
Yeah, but there's like you can count on one hand the number of like rom-coms that
Train
actually.
wreck.
Some Like It Hot.
We're just listing
all the
stuff,
great,
yeah.
all the best ones. But
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't like Some Like It Hot. I mean, I know
I
it's
liked
like,
it. It's not funny though.
Yeah. Some of the obviously old comedy doesn't always hold up, but It Happened One Night. I think it's a funny movie. Anyways, regardless, romance is very hard to write,
Yeah.
and so some of the scenes.
Dev and I tried to watch Sleepless in Seattle over the pandemic.
Garbage.
Like, garbage.
Awful movie.
What's going on there?
Oh, that's the
It's
AIDS
Nora
movie?
Ephron, right?
No, it's yeah.
Oh no, that's Philadelphia.
yeah.
I have seen
Yeah,
Sleepless in
Scott, that
Seattle.
movie where Tom Hanks gives Meg Ryan AIDS, and they
He's sleepless in Seattle because he's so worried that he's dying of AIDS.
I've never seen.
He doesn't want to go to bed because it'll be his last time.
That's the director's cut. Sleepless in Seattle because I'm dying of AIDS. Oh boy,
It's called You've Got
Oh,
AIDS. I've seen
God.
You've Got Mail. You've Got Mail is good.
you've got AIDS.
You've got AIDS.
every Tom Hanks and Meg.
Yeah.
When Harry met Sally at the AIDS clinic.
I've never seen When Harry Met Sally.
I haven't seen any. I've heard mixed things.
You know, I know the famous scene.
When Harry Met Sally's okay.
Yeah.
It's like there's a couple funny moments, and it's
Yeah.
and
I'm
the
trying to think of another decent romantic.
well, it's like it's just it's hard to when you've actually like been in love or like really seriously cared about somebody, you know how complex that is.
Right.
It's like it's a really complex, difficult thing, like just for you personally to navigate, but also for you to navigate with the other person, and just like those feelings you feel and how they kind of make you change your behavior, like. It's just it's very difficult to write. It's very difficult to explain, and it's just like, and it's so hard to make people, I guess, relate to it. And
It's hard for people to believe it. I mean, people see it sometimes and they go impossible.
Yeah.
A guy wouldn't do that for those reasons.
yeah, and so I don't. So it's like vast majority of romance just falls flat because it's shoehorned into every Hollywood movie, and you watch it and you've like had romance if hopefully God willing, you watch it and you're like, this is nothing what it's like. This is not what my experience is.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times it's a very kind of cheap simulacrum that actually makes you angry because it's just such a cardboard cutout. And,
Right.
And then a lot of people go and they watch these movies and they're like, why don't I have that in my life? And it's like,
Right,
no,
right.
because that's not what love is.
Right.
You're watching porn for love.
Yeah.
You know?
You ever see 500 Days of Summer?
Sure.
I
It's a
hate
fun-
that movie.
Yeah, it's a good hate watch though.
I legitimately hate. Well, like,
Yeah.
I guess I don't like that movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happens in it. He dates a girl for 500 days, right? And then he meets
dates a girl.
Autumn at the end.
I
That
did
literally
like-
happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I did like the title
She
card
was named
opens with
Autumn.
calling her a bitch, though. That's like
Yeah,
that's
I
when you
didn't
know
like
it's a
that.
really, really romantic movie that loves
That's
women.
when you know it was written by a guy who's just in a good place in his life. Yeah, he calls his ex-girlfriend a bitch.
Yeah.
Do they
But it's
have him
like-
curling up in her lap and shit?
But you know what's funny is like that movie they try to do this thing where it's like, oh, what's so annoying is they're like, she's so like quirky. Aren't you in love with her? And it's like
Yeah.
she literally just every bitch in 2007 acted like that. Literally, that's every girl. There's nothing like unique about her.
Yeah.
He goes to her apartment and she's got like wallpaper. She's got like wallpaper from the 1800s.
Garden State was okay. It was better actually,
Was
and that's
it?
like
Garden State's great, yeah.
Well, that was what they were complaining about at the time in the 2000s. The manic pixie dream girl,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of the self-insert of like, oh, she's so like quirky and random, but
Right.
she's gonna make the lonely man, understand the joy of life and all that.
Yeah.
And Garden State at least did it a bit better, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so few rom-coms that I don't just feel physically disgusted after I finish watching.
Yeah, they need to make a movie about a guy who falls in love with like the lady who sells churros on the subway.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there were parts of the romance.
They just cast Anya Taylor-Joy as the churro lady. They're like, what the fuck is this shit? She's not a churro lady. She's got to wear like a fat suit.
Do they get to their breakup? I mean, what happens in the movie?
There's a divorce.
I know do they
yeah.
acknowledge it in the movie?
Yeah, and they do part of it well. Though it's like, I have a list here of some of the historical inaccuracies in the movie, just from screenrant.com.
So can I just say real quick, what's interesting about Napoleon is he was Corsican, but
Yeah.
his family, and so Corsica's like a WAP island, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
owned by
Italy?
yeah.
Yeah.
But Napoleon's parents were wealthy enough to send him to Paris to study.
Yeah.
So but then when he went to Paris, everybody was like really French to him. Like they
Yeah,
treated him like shit. So he would spend his time like reading. He would spend a lot of his time in school alone reading, which that's what I did when I was in school. My mom said when I was a kid, she would drive by the playground and I would just be like by myself or I'd be reading. So I guess I kind of identify.
Kind of the Napoleon of this
I'm
podcast.
kind of like the Napoleon.
in that you're getting cucked.
Yeah, right now.
In that you're short and you're getting cucked. And you can't ride a horse.
Actually average for the time.
Yeah. Oh, that is more British propaganda that he
What?
was short.
Oh, yeah?
He's 5'6".
Yeah.
So when you go to defend him, you do sound like a short guy, but he was just 5'6".
He was average for the time.
Yeah, he average.
Now, and why do they hate him? Just because he embarrassed them, he owned them?
Yeah, I mean, they had to form. That's another thing about the movie. It's like, okay, Napoleon's always portrayed as like this conqueror, and it's like, yeah, sure, he invaded Russia. He did some conquering in his
Russia,
time.
Spain, Portugal.
Yeah, he invaded a lot of places. He invaded
Yeah.
Spain. Okay,
Yeah.
yes. All right, fine. Napoleon is kind of a conqueror.
I mean, Egypt,
But-
but they kind of fucked with him.
Well, let's just put it in the context. It's like Napoleon, like the coalition. There were 7 different coalitions formed against him, and the first one was they were invading revolutionary France because all the monarchies of Europe were freaked out that
Right.
they just overthrew the king,
Right.
and had him executed along with Marie Antoinette. So it's like that's the first war Napoleon fought for France, is a purely defensive one, and then they were like, the British would never settle for peace. Like he did try to pursue peace. In general, the wars, because you have 7 different coalitions over the span of his reign and the time that he's, in the French military. Most of the wars were not started by him.
Okay.
You know.
What was that scene in the movie where he put down that royalist uprising?
That's how he got. That is true.
Yeah.
So it's like
And were they unarmed?
They were armed in real life, at least some of the royalists. But
They were armed in real life?
Some of them, yeah. But
That's kind of fucked up, because in the movie, it looks like he's just...
shooting cannons into a
yeah.
mob. Because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so yeah, like, I guess just,
Just 200 Ashley Babbitts in the...
is wearing a Mike Pence Secret Service uniform, but for the French era at the time. Yeah.
Hey, good job, Napoleon. Thanks for stepping up and protecting me.
Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi.
He's just with Grape Shot, he blows apart 200 Ashley Babbitts, and
Yeah.
then like 400 CrossFit instructors go run to cry over their corpses. 400 CrossFit instructors that they're cheating on their husbands with.
Pelosi's like, oh no, they died.
But yeah, so Napoleon, like, okay, he's just kind of an officer, and then of course the French Revolution breaks out, and that's the thing about revolutions.
Yeah.
Is it provides a lot of opportunity for advancement if you're in the right place, the right time, and you make the right decisions. So it's like Napoleon,
Kind of like us with Gaza.
yeah, we
right?
got an extra $100 a month because Israel decided to do a genocide, and we wouldn't be like, no, we're just not going to talk about that
Yeah.
or pretend it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Napoleon was like one of the only people or the only military officers in Paris at the time that there was this kind of like royalist mob that was, kind of rampaging the streets of Paris to try to overthrow the revolutionary government. And so he just brought out cannons and just fucking wasted a bunch of, civilians with cannons. And it's like, yes, some of them have weapons, but apparently I read online that the streets of Paris at the time were much more narrow than it's portrayed in the movie. So he just like, he probably killed more people than was even shown in the movie. But it's just like, it is one of those, let's say, opportunistic things when you're, like Henry Kissinger just died.
Right.
When you're that kind of Kissinger, Napoleon type figure, your goal is get power. And you don't really think about, I don't want to shoot innocent
Get
people.
views. Get Norman Finkelstein on your podcast, even though you don't agree with anything he says, because you're secretly, because you don't have any backbone or principles.
It'd be great if we were just faking everything we said. We're like, pardon this interruption, the sports show where they have like scripts beforehand and they agree like which guy is going to take
even know
which
that.
side
Yeah.
of each sports debate.
Yeah.
So we just have a script of the episode where we pretend to be pro Gaza.
Yeah.
But anyways, So yeah, Napoleon, like how he was able to kind of get in good with the revolutionary government was by being the officer who was willing to fire on just like a mob in Paris, at least some of whom were armed, but a lot of them weren't armed. You just blast them with cannons, and then they're like, oh, cool, we can rely on you. And then he's, he gets, what is it, the Siege of Toulon? It's showed in the movie. I think the movie actually starts out really well, and then it kind of falls apart a bit.
Do you think there's any chance that he had a little autism?
Probably did, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like Joaquin Phoenix is just playing the Joker.
Yeah. Right.
It's just like
Right.
It's like you could finish watching the Joker and then watch this as a back-to-back feature
Right.
about the Joker's great-great-grandfather
Yeah.
who behaved exactly like him.
So right. Because I didn't know anything about Napoleon going into it, but he did play it like he was kind of a dummy.
And it was very annoying because it's
Wait,
like
he played it like a dummy?
well,
Yeah, he's like he was like a little slow, I guess. I don't know.
yeah,
He
and-
did kind of play it like the Joker.
He did, yeah. And you're right, because it's annoying, because like you were saying, like Napoleon read all the time. He was a
Right.
brilliant man, like
Right.
brilliant tactician, but also just like the Napoleonic Code, just from Wikipedia. The Napoleonic Code is the most widespread system of law in the world. It's enforced in various forms in about 120 countries. 120 countries. There's only like 200 some
It's the
countries.
metric system is Napoleon.
Yeah, well, it's so this is created under Napoleon's supervision in 1804.
The number one rule is if a guy who's under 5'8" talks to you, you have to at least give him a chance.
The Napoleonic Code.
You
made-
cannot
made-
you cannot put guys only over 6 feet in your Tinder bio.
the Napoleonic Code made it illegal for women to shave their armpits.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, the point was, it's like this is a written code of laws, and a lot of the countries that he invaded and conquered, he brought the Napoleonic Code there, and they just didn't have like written a consistent legal system before then. Like they would have like a patchwork feudal system where it would be like there's sort of written laws, but not really. Like the way it really works is if you know somebody in government, then there's rules. And if you don't know somebody in government, then you're just completely at their arbitrary whim. Whereas the whole point of the Napoleonic Code is a written code of laws where anyone can look up all the laws and know exactly what they are. And that is progress. That is like, it is a much more fair world than just having kind of arbitrary, capricious, quote unquote justice, where you're just like, oh, some guy has a fucking uncle who's like, knows the Duke here, so he can fucking rape your sister, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I was thinking that tonight because my dishwasher broke tonight,
Yeah.
and now I gotta like call my landlord. And I'm like, now I gotta go through this thing. I'm like, is he gonna fix it? What if he like jerks me around on this? But it's nice that you can access. It is nice that the average person can access laws. Because where did people find the laws before Google? Did you have to go to the library?
Yeah, they just found out when their hand was laid on a table. About to get cut off.
Right.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you could go to, it's depending on the system, you go to the local magistrate or whoever the king's representative is or something, and you just kind of ask. Like, a lot of times it wouldn't be written down. So, and that's the thing, the historian Andrew Roberts, he wrote the book Napoleon: A Life. But he was interviewed by RTE, Irish paper, and he has this quote that I liked a lot, which he talked about the lack of context in the Napoleon film, and he says, quote, "It does not explain why the crowds are cheering him."
Right.
And you see that, and it's like, the movie tells you exactly nothing about why anybody ever liked Napoleon.
Ever liked him, yeah.
And it's like, and that's the crazy thing, is this guy fucking, he gets exiled, and then he comes back, and then loses at Waterloo, but he was able to, without a shot, just kind of land in France and then take it over because all the fucking troops are like, I'm gonna go fight for that guy.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with Julius Caesar, where they killed a lot of people, but there was a reason people at the time adored them. A lot of people at the time adored them. There's a reason a lot of people at the time preferred them to their enemies. And if you're not going to kind of deal with that, if you're not going to be realistic about it, then I mean, it's a movie for children. It's not like,
because after he was exiled, didn't they put in a king after he went to Elba?
Yeah.
They put in like Louis XIV's brother or something, and they were like, "Now you're the king."
That's why he was like very confident in coming back, because everybody was so pissed how they handled him.
He came back, and then he was like, the new king was like, "I'll send men to arrest him." Yeah. But then they all joined him.
Well, and he showed up with 1,000 people too. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Well, also, I heard when he was in Elba, I hear exile and I think of like a guy sad and he's barely got food and there's like a vulture,
He's got a big long beard.
But yeah, they just exile him to Elba, and they chose Elba. One of the reasons is it's a smaller place than other places, and wherever he goes, people are going to like this motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah, just captivating. But that thing you said about him reading, I was interested about that because everything I read about him, it's like the way he approaches a lot of like Egypt, right? Is I know all about this. I embrace Islam. I mean, people say he's Muslim. Some people.
Napoleon?
Yeah, some people will argue that he's Muslim because when he went into Egypt, he basically embraced Islam, loved Muhammad. They were all like, holy shit, this guy's in on the Prophet Muhammad. But now if you read his actual writings about it, it's like, I like Muhammad as a man. I like Muhammad as...
there were just drawings
like
of Muhammad in his journal.
Yeah. But as opposed to, you see
He's
it
like,
now.
what are you going to do, bitch?
But you see it now with us versus
He was
the
doing
Middle
Charlie
East,
Hebdo drawings.
where you have these dumb people who are like, it's all bad. Their thought process is bad, and then nothing
Islam.
gets accomplished, right?
Right.
Whereas he would walk into a place and go, well, you can't win people over like that.
Yeah.
And so he's like, like the Wigger of Egypt. He walks in like, na 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 na. They're like, whoa, how do you know that song? He's like, I'm vibing on you guys.
Okay.
Other locations, he goes there.
He's like the Jack Harlow. He's like Jack Harlow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Spain, he shits the bed in Spain, and like a lot of people, do they talk about Spain at all in it?
They don't mention Spain. And
Yeah, so the Spanish fucking hate him, and all like art, like throughout history, it's like the French love him. He's the greatest guy ever. Even in other places in the world, he's like okay. And then in Spain, it's like what the fuck happened there? That 5 years he was there, and it was just chaos. Because what it seems to me, because his description to other people before he went there was, oh no, it's a bunch of savages. They're far behind, and I wonder if it's because that's all that there was written about them at the time. And so when you get there, based off of writings, and you go, oh, it's a bunch of savages. This is going to be easy.
In Spain?
in Spain, and then you get there and they go fuck yourself. And Spain fought him for 5 years, and he still didn't beat them. They just fought for 5 years, drained them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because their citizens did like an uprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, no.
Yeah.
He really thought it was going to be like, I'll tickle your balls, like
right.
everywhere else I've ever been. Well, you know.
Right.
He was reading about the Spanish, and he was like, all the books are saying that they show up 7 hours late to everything and play grab ass with women. And
Oh, matter of fact, because I know you want to do an episode about this, and I saw this in one of the things I read. The first use of the term guerrilla warfare was explained by what Spain was doing when Napoleon and his guys showed
Right.
up.
Really?
Yeah,
That's the
it's
first
like-
time guerrilla warfare is like the use of the word.
Well, the thing
They
is-
just come down and they act like monkeys.
Gorillas.
They act like gorillas.
And it's like, the thing is, yeah, if you want to talk about Napoleon as an evil man, like, yeah, what he did in Spain,
Yeah.
what he did in Russia, what he did in Haiti, would be the most infamous example. But
Sure.
and it's like, yeah, you could acknowledge
But Haiti is another thing where the fucking French, whoever ruled before him,
Yeah.
they abolished slavery, and so all these places that were French ruled, slavery was abolished, and then Napoleon comes back and he's like, no, we're doing it again.
Yeah.
So consider Haiti, you're a free person, and now you're not because Napoleon's back.
That would suck.
That sucks dick.
Yeah.
So he's great for
That's
the
like
French.
me going back to work at the moving company
Yeah,
tomorrow.
he's like the last person, and really the only person where it was like, oh, the French are taking over the world.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons they're also holding on to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so it's like, yeah, you can make the movie. You could make a smart movie that ultimately portrays him as a bad person.
Yeah.
But this is not that movie. It's just like, it doesn't even touch any of that. It's just like, the thing is, I guess they spent $200 million on this thing, and you want to have like a box office hit. But I think people who actually go and see a movie about Napoleon, I think you can trust them. Like, I wanted the movie to be longer. That was my main problem. Like, give me a 3.5, 4 hour movie, or even just break it into 2 movies. He's lived enough life. Like him and Julius Caesar, I just don't see how you can do their story in less than 3.5. And that's
Right.
the minimum. Like,
Right.
ideally 8 hours, ideally 20 hours. You know,
Right.
it's like the fucking Ring, Wagner. But
Yeah.
but so it's like, yeah, you can make that movie, but it's just Ridley Scott does not deal at all with like any kind of political shit. And maybe that's the choice you want to make a Hollywood movie, but I guess if you're going to do that, just give me the fucking battles.
Don't pick the
Right.
guy because he started high schools, right? Which I'm still.
Yeah.
How do you hate the guy who started high schools?
Well,
for
like,
everybody?
like just a few things Napoleon did, like abolished feudalism in most of the lands he controlled, which is why, like, again, the monarchies that were against him were worse
Right.
than he
Right,
was
right. Okay.
in basically every case. And it's like, he abolished feudalism. In
Yeah, and
lands
if
he
you only watch the movie, you would never know that.
You would never know that. You would think like he was the bad guy,
Right.
He abolished ghettoization of Jews.
Yeah, I
like
saw
when he came into Italy or wherever, where Jewish people still had to live in the ghetto,
how
like
that turned
since
out.
the fuck. He set up the state of Israel. And everything that's happening in Gaza right now is actually his fault.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
But yeah, and like Scott was saying, he created a free higher education system for French citizens. Free.
I mean, so that made everybody rich, and not everybody rich, but that made a lot of people who didn't have money have money.
At least a more egalitarian.
But now what I also
society.
heard is it's because at the time, right, because it's not just one man changes the world. And so at the time, France was doing so well because of how he was conquering that the reason they were also able to, now introduce high schools and everybody gets to benefit is because they were sucking from everybody else. Like, it's like here, you know, yes, we have all this money. Oh, why? Here's why. But damn, if I was French, I'd be the happiest person in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, except women. And then that's the other thing. Some French women had more rights before him.
And then he kind of rolled that back.
And then you go, is that the whole his issue? Is that issues with Josephine? Because he wrote like a book on
He was like,
love
they need to be
after-
under constant
after
supervision.
Josephine.
Because they...
It seems like most of his letters, like I think one of the reasons they also focused on Josephine is they have published books of his letters writing to Josephine.
Right. Yeah, they mentioned that in the movie that her family sold his letters to her.
That's
after,
how it happened? Wow.
After she died.
Didn't he like tell her not to bathe when he was on his way
That's a
home?
letter. He says, "I'll be home in 3 days. Don't bathe."
Yeah. Now, do you think that was don't bathe because I like it, or don't bathe because I want to make sure you aren't fucking anybody else?
Oh, I think probably he liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like Roquefort cheese in France.
They like a lot of smelly stuff.
Like a Robluchon.
There's like a French wherever like the French kings lived for a while. Wasn't there no running water forever? Versailles, right? No running water.
I don't know about that. I mean,
And one of the kings claimed to have only bathed like a few times in his life. He like would brag about it. He's like 4 for me, and they were like, "Shut the fuck up." He's like, "I only washed my ass 4 times." They're like, "You're the coolest."
Wow. Every time I wipe my ass, I go, I need to wash that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
If you're the smelliest guy in France, they make you king. You're just the most French person in the country.
Smelly and racist.
if you draw the Prophet Muhammad in the stinks a lot competition.
Do they have him going to?
The annual stink off.
They show him losing to Russia.
Yeah, they and it's
yeah.
like they condense it so much. Where it's
Right.
another thing. So he invades Russia in 1812, and he has
There's
to.
a director's cut apparently that's like 4 hours
That's
long.
It's the one everybody wanted.
Well, exactly. That's
That's
what
where
I-
all the money went.
I heard fucking Ridley Scott in interviews say that there's a 4-hour cut of the movie, and I'm like, okay, you should have just released that. I
Yeah.
want to watch that.
Yeah.
because
You know what I want to know? Is there a place in Hollywood where they have like a dead horse warehouse where you just rent dead horse? Because there are so many dead horses in this movie. How do they like do that? How do they make that effect?
yeah, I guess it's CGI though. Actually,
CGI.
you know what? I have this on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because they released a Criterion collection version of it, but in the Soviet Union in the 60s, they made a War and Peace movie, and they actually like recreated these kind of Napoleonic battles, but they were able to use like 20,000 Soviet soldiers.
Yeah.
So they have just like these incredible shots, like wide shots of like battle formation, you know,
awesome.
all dressed up in like Napoleonic era
Yeah.
uniforms and such. But that production is infamous for having killed the most horses of any movie in history.
Really?
Because they really killed horses on that thing when you watch it.
yeah,
It's
I
like the
remember
Milo and Otis of the Soviets.
the Braveheart extra features were all about how they didn't hurt any horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, "No, it's all bullshit. We didn't do it. Don't worry."
It's
Oh,
good.
good.
Yeah.
You just have to lie about that.
Yeah, how
It's
do they-
like all the horses went to live on a farm upstate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But
could be
with
a fun
Russia,
job
it's
for
like-
me. Just show up with a U-Haul full of dead horses.
Hmm.
I'm like, you're a dead horse delivery from Recine Moving LLC.
But yeah, we should mention Vanessa Kirby was the actress who played Josephine.
She was good.
I think she did a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, does he lay in her lap? I heard that happen in real life. He would lay in her lap. Have you ever laid in your girl's lap? I've put my head on my girl's lap, and but I've never sat like on her and
Yeah.
been cradled like that.
See, I could do that.
I don't like to be vulnerable around my wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Emasculating.
It's a little emasculating.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
you don't
really-
you've never cried in front of Deb, and like
Like once.
wow.
You
Yeah.
know, if you're a man in this world, you really only got yourself, huh?
Yeah, you
The
really-
woman you,
Yeah.
the woman you love most.
Yeah.
You're just
Once.
24/7 on. Don't give her the ick watch.
Yeah,
You
right.
just don't want her to fucking not think of you as a fuckable masculine man.
Exactly.
You just have to
Yeah.
pretend you have your shit together 24 hours a day.
You want to ask her for some help so bad. But
No,
you're
that's
like, she's gonna think I'm
that's
a-
fine. You didn't text me back. I'm not mad and obsessing about this.
I don't have emotional needs.
I don't actually. I didn't even notice. What? You didn't text me back for 6 hours? It's not like I can. I'm busy.
Yeah. I don't even care if you're alive or dead.
I don't even like you.
Yeah.
That's what women like.
I didn't read War and Peace, but you brought it up, and I have heard that Tolstoy like goes after Napoleon in a way that a lot of people agree with, where it's like he basically says he isn't the guy you think he is, and it's just he was the face of obviously
of the
you know
movement.
not one man makes all these bad decisions, and one man makes all these good decisions. He was the face, and we shouldn't look at history that way.
Yeah.
And again, he wrote War and Peace, like a few years after he died, if you think about it, right? If he died in like 1850, War and Peace is what, 1860, 1870? If anybody wants to look that up.
Well,
What I'm saying is it's like within the time of you could kind of look back and get a frame of Napoleon.
Napoleon died in the 1820s. I know that.
He died in the 1820s.
Yeah.
And then, when was War and Peace written?
Probably like 1850s, 60s.
Yeah. So that is enough time to be completely wrong about a guy, too.
Well, that's.
But he's in Russia, and I guess Russians have a different take on Napoleon.
Yeah, so it's like I totally understand Russians, and you know, I'm not trying to say Napoleon is a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get into these kind of good guy, bad guy
No,
dichotomies, which is like so much of fucking Hollywood and Disney is like, is it a good guy? Is it a bad guy? No, I want a movie that treats me like I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Which
Do you
is
think they were afraid
people
to
are-
show good things he did in
Yes.
this movie?
Yeah. People are multifaceted. And it's, even like, honestly, Downfall, masterpiece, by the way, that humanizes Hitler more than this movie humanized Napoleon. And that doesn't mean it portrays Hitler as a good guy. Far from it. But it allows you to kind of understand. It allows you to and it's, very historically accurate. Masterpiece. I love Downfall. And it's like, that's kind of, you just want a movie to treat you like you're an adult, like you're an
Right.
intelligent person who's like been alive, you've met and you've spoken with people, and you can kind of, if you watch a movie, if it's written well and acted well, you can kind of have some sense of what it was like to be there and to
Right.
deal with those people.
Right. It's got to be hard to make a historical epic, though.
Yeah.
I just imagine it's. I'm almost wondering if people are being too hard on the.
War and Peace was published in 1867.
Okay.
But yeah, no, and it's like I was saying, yeah, there's legions of criticisms of Napoleon. Like Beethoven would be a great example. Beethoven was a great man. He dedicated one of his symphonies to Napoleon, and then when Napoleon crowned himself emperor, he crossed it out so violently he broke the page. He ripped the page.
No shit.
Because, yeah, Beethoven supported the French Revolution and the idea of a republican form of government. And then Napoleon, to kind of get in with the Catholic Church and some of, he started out kind of against these royal families. Then he brought some of them on side. Then they turned against, it's like kind of goes back and forth. But to kind of get the Catholic Church and the royals on his side, he has himself crowned emperor. And that, of course, it's a middle finger to the French Revolution, to the whole idea of a republican form of government.
Right.
And so, yeah, Beethoven crossed his name out so violently he ripped the page
Interesting.
of the symphony he dedicated to Napoleon.
Interesting.
So it's like, yeah, Napoleon was not a good guy, but the movie just made me annoyed because I know enough, certainly not all, not even that much of the history, but I know enough to know that things were far more complicated than they were portrayed in the movie,
Right.
and there just wasn't really any nuance at all.
You're right. There was that thing at the end where they were like these campaigns and they listed all the deaths, which is kind of like, I don't know, seemed a little biased.
Yeah. Yeah, they should blame the British for all those deaths because they wouldn't
Yeah.
accept his peace treaty.
Right.
Well, when I was a kid, I always confused Napoleon Bonaparte and Benedict Arnold.
Okay.
And I think
Probably not a very
one
common
because
thing,
I'm
but-
dumb, but two because I think it's just they get shit on like crazy by the cult. Like even in cartoons, I go Napoleon. Like I picture this tiny little fuck, who Bugs Bunny is making fun of.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got a shit reputation. I mean,
Sure.
I never thought he did
Yeah,
anything
right.
okay.
Yeah,
I
he was
literally
never-
never
yeah,
thought he
that's a
did
good
like
point.
an okay thing in his life. So yeah, to find out that there's like a lot of
He was never
and a lot
portrayed
of
like a
terrible,
positive.
but like yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with those weird moments in history where like things are thrusted forward into the future, right? But all these dead people are left behind. Like, how do you get to talk about it and go, yeah, he's awesome?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I guess if like I do, you spend a lot of time, in leftist Twitter circles or just leftism online or whatever. They have this concept of historical progressivism, which is the idea that it's not supposed to be a value judgment, though it's usually used as a value judgment. But it's the idea that like certain events or people move history in a progressive direction towards socialism. Like that's the whole, the big theory of socialism, communism is that capitalism, replaced feudalism, so it was progressive. We are progressing from feudalism to capitalism, and then we will inevitably progress from capitalism to socialism to communism. So events are kind of looked at in a historical nature of, are these historically progressive, setting us on the pathway to socialism, communism? So there are people who will say Napoleon was historically progressive because...
Wait, so you're saying you want to share our podcast revenue with other podcasts?
with a bunch of Guatemalan guys.
Yeah.
You want a joint dictatorship of the proletariat of oppressed nations to
Yeah.
come in here? There's going to be like 7...
I'm sorry, you want Jake Flores to get some of our Patreon money?
There's going to be 7 Indonesians in the
Yeah.
podcast studio.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we're all podcasters. We're all entertainers.
He blocked me on my alt account.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
That's funny.
The one that I used to spy on it.
Yeah.
Well, other people who
Did
have
you
me
know?
blocked.
Yeah.
I don't know how he found it.
Was it a mass block, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
He blocked me so he could talk shit about me.
That's very annoying.
Yeah. Anyway, keep your
It's not like-
keep your fucking hands out of our pockets.
And it's not like we ever did anything to you, all right?
yeah,
It's not like we
we never did shit to you.
spent 7 episodes on this.
It's not like we had blind loyalty to Nick Mullen no matter what.
Yeah, dude.
just randomly.
It's not like we worship Nick Mullen like a god. Let him validate every.
It's not like we're like some sort of hangers-on at a private
Yeah.
school with Nick Mullen being the lead bully and us being his sort of lick spittles,
Exactly.
tormenting the kid that he decided to pick on.
We're like the 3 guys from Greece, and he's Danny Zuko.
It's not
Hey
like
Nick, that's really funny. It's awesome.
we have him on. We should just do that. Just
Yeah.
every time he says,
Yeah.
anytime he says a joke.
Yeah. Get him, Nick.
That's so funny, Nick.
You rule, dude.
Yeah, but I forget where we were.
Well, anything about his
No.
because I feel like as my kid's getting older.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
need-
Sorry.
Yeah.
The historical progressivism
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But the idea would be, or the argument has been made by people smarter than me, that Napoleon, because he like destroyed feudalism in all these areas, because he knocked over all these kind of ancient monarchies and sort of opened them more up for like more kind of modern capitalism, more kind of modern liberal democracy, he kind of advanced history in the direction. Because that's the other thing is they all say, or Marx and others say that you have to have industrial capitalism, and then when you have industrial capitalism, then you get the working class, the proletariat in the factories and stuff, and then they will kind of grab the levers of history.
Okay.
And then this is the Russian and the Chinese Revolution
But
didn't
that's
quite
so
go
frustrating
that
because
way.
we started off like socialists, right? When we're all in tribes.
I mean, yeah, like that would be, a pre-capitalist formation, or I mean, like hunter-gatherers. I guess they don't really count that stuff. It's more
Yeah.
just kind of the
Yeah,
10,000 years of written history,
Right.
Because you get 95% of human existence, 200,000
Isn't that annoying
years.
though? Because the Indians, they just shared everything.
Well, it's like you share with your tribe.
Right.
So you have your gang of like 20 to 50 or, however many people are in
Yeah.
your little band.
Right.
And you share everything communally, and there's no like private property because you're on the move.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just can't have like a permanent dwelling. And there's like horticulture where you do have like permanent dwellings, but it's like a much more communal thing. It's like partly hunter gatherer, partly just, But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is of the 10,000 or so years, or 5,000, 5,000 years of written history, approximately, that we have. You have your pre-capitalist formations, and then you kind of keep going, and then you get to feudalism, then you get to capitalism, and then the idea is, the argument's made that guys like Napoleon are kind of, by bringing society into the direction that it needs in order for there to be a working class revolution, they are bringing it towards, they're historically progressive towards socialism.
Right. And what was Prussia? That was like Germany?
Yeah, it was like one of the German states because it wasn't a united country until Bismarck.
Okay.
But Prussia's always been like militarily like one of the most fearsome and dominant European powers. Like when the Japanese modernized, they kind of sent representatives around to all the different like European countries and also the United States and stuff to just try to figure out like, okay, like the Europeans and the Americans, they have better militaries than us. Who do we want to study? And they decided to study the Prussians. And, like in the American Revolution, Prussian soldiers were used by the British, but also like Prussians trained the American soldiers, So it's like they have a very long history of like a very strong military reputation. And Napoleon kicked their asses, which is another thing he has going for him. I mean, yeah, he lost in the end, but whatever.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, did they do him trying to go to Russia with all them dudes and then getting there and they burnt all their shit down?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like,
It's such a great plan, right?
it's so condensed. It's just like, and
Yeah.
it's like the Battle of Waterloo, which they end with. It's like, it's done decently well, but it's just like, you just didn't have any buildup, So it's like, the movie is so kind of schizophrenic on like where it wants to like condense and where it wants to kind of just let the scene breathe and let
Right.
you kind of get absorbed in it. And so
Right.
it's like you do kind of start to
And
get
it's so
like,
much of just him and his wife.
yeah, it's so much of him and Josephine. And like, again, not all of that's bad.
Yeah.
But it's just, okay, you only have 2.5 hours and half of it is like, you know, the plot of like Sleepless in Seattle with the Joker in it.
Yeah.
Just like a really dark take on Sleepless in Seattle,
Yeah.
where his mom makes him fuck an 18-year-old. Like, what? Why was this in here? And like the thing I was telling John,
She was a single mom too, Josephine. That's kind of cool.
yeah, she's a single mom. No, he like, dude, I totally get. I do like there should be more romances about men loving ran through women.
Yeah.
This is like the main thing we need to fix is this
Yeah.
fucking incel low body count nonsense.
Nonsense.
It
yeah.
is nonsense.
It is
it's
nonsense.
It's fine to have a slutty girlfriend,
Right.
As long as it's in her past, or
Yeah.
it's in her past, or you just kind of pretend when she didn't pick up her phone for like her
Yeah.
Miami vacation. Oh,
Yeah.
she was with her friends.
When she was in the Dominican Republic because it was boat day, and that's when she didn't answer her phone.
You just kind of pretend.
She didn't post on her story neither did any of the girls that she was on the trip with.
No, it's the Sam Cooke line. Just tell me it's
Yeah.
not
Tell
true.
me it's
It'll be
not
all
true.
right.
Yeah, right.
And that's a real man right there.
Right.
Napoleon, Sam Cooke.
Mm-hmm.
You just if you're not getting cucked, you're kind of a cuck.
Yeah, you're
honestly.
gonna get cucked. Everybody gets cucked.
Wait, so they really don't show that woman that he was dating? It was like another officer, another officer's girl, and he sent him away to go deliver a message, and then the British intercepted it. And when the guy got back, they don't show all that.
No, I mean,
Napoleon was with this woman in Egypt, and then when the guy returned, she was like dressed up like Napoleon, and everyone was like calling her Lady Bonaparte and shit. And it was
Yeah.
this guy's wife. And Napoleon was like,
When Napoleon was in Egypt, he found out that his wife was fucking this other officer back in Paris, and that's portrayed in the movie. And you know, this was like in the underground papers in Paris, like this kind of stuff was gossip. It was known. So Napoleon finds out that his wife's fucking another officer, so he fucks one of his officers' wives while he's in Egypt. Yeah, and that the latter part of that is not portrayed in the movie. What they instead do is they have him like leaving Egypt to go back to Josephine because in the middle of this military campaign, which actually like his real reasons for doing that were much more kind of Machiavellian, which is he knew because he was like had a military command in Egypt, and he knew the political situation in Paris was deteriorating. Like the people who lived there were frustrated with the government, and also they were about to get invaded. So he knew like, oh, if I get out of here and I get back to Paris, there's actually going to be like very good opportunity for me to move into a position of like actual command or like take over the government, which he eventually did.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that Tupac song where it's like, there you go, acting like a hoe? It's a good song, but not. You got to outgrow that song and accept that you're gonna.
I like
You're gonna
Tupac's
get cucked.
smart songs, like "Wonder Why They Call You Bitch." He just rags on some woman for being ran through for like 3 different verses. It's just like, and then like all the song that's on what All Eyes on Me. So he just like all the songs go
Well,
to like
he was like 23 when he died, right?
he's 25, I think.
Like you don't really,
Which is
learn not to be-
crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like just musicians tend to like. They seem so much more, wise for their years.
Yeah.
And they all die by 27. And you listen to this music, you're like, this is the most relatable thing anybody's ever written.
Yeah.
But another thing in the movie, which I told Johnny this was fake, but it might have actually happened, is they have Tsar Alexander of Russia fuck Josephine. And then, Napoleon being mad about this. And it's like, that's just a rumor, but it's like basically what happened is the first time Napoleon gets exiled is 1814. So the Tsar Alexander of Russia, and he was allies with Napoleon, but then he wouldn't like enforce the blockade against Britain, that Napoleon was trying to blockade Britain, so Napoleon invaded Russia. So they were allies, then they become enemies. And there's like a 30-second scene of them like having a conversation and being friendly, and that's like all the buildup you get, and then just like later he just comes back and like is banging Josephine. But it's like in real life he did like after Napoleon was defeated the first time, he did kind of parade through Paris, just kind of like how Napoleon had paraded through Moscow, and apparently him and Josephine became friendly and talked about art. There's rumors, there's no evidence they actually fucked, but it might have happened. But What I thought was interesting is that Josephine, she died of pneumonia during the first time Napoleon was exiled. The last public appearance of her was actually meeting with Tsar Alexander in order to beg him to let her go to Elba to be with Napoleon. Yeah, and the rumor is that she actually caught cold and died because she was like wearing kind of a revealing outfit to try to
I think the French are gossipy. I think that's what's happening.
It's true. That's a very big part of it.
Because another thing, they said like Josephine would talk a lot of shit to people about Napoleon. But then you look into Marie Antoinette, who my whole life, again, I thought like, oh, rich, out of touch, bitch, basically. And turns out a lot of that was just made up too, where it's just like, oh yeah, she doesn't get it. She just doesn't get us poor people. And then you make up a bunch of stories about her.
Right. And then you meet a bunch of French poor people.
Yeah.
And you're like, ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is nice, like, Napoleon's last word was Josephine. I mean, what did he say? Like France, Army, Command, Josephine, something like
That's
that.
cool.
He's just like listing his favorite things.
I guess
That's
so,
his
yeah.
final words.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to.
That was a name of his sled too, though.
It was.
Well, it's like, it is interesting where I guess it's a reductive thing to say all politics are sexual politics, but a lot of them are. Like, I noticed that, I posted some guy in my replies posted something about, you remember the hostages getting released and some of the women were like being very friendly with the Hamas guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So some guy in my replies got an AI generated Pixar love movie
Yeah, yeah.
between an Israeli woman on the hospital bed and the Hamas,
Hamas
guy.
guy.
And Israeli Twitter found it and they just freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
And it's it's exactly the same thing, segregation era South, the entire idea of a fucking black guy fucking a white woman.
Sure.
It's the exact same thing that Israelis have with the idea of a Palestinian fucking an Israeli woman.
Yeah.
It makes them insane.
Yeah.
And it's
Good.
And so you do kind of realize it's yes, a lot of politics is sexual politics. It's this idea of this insecurity about being cucked or whatever else. So it's yes, I'm sure Josephine was a big motivating factor in Napoleon's life, and certainly her story is relevant.
Well, Israeli guys, it's a shame that nobody wants to fuck them because they're just so cool when they go into Target and they go, why is this Ridley Scott else? Why is this Taylor's flag, you piece of shit? My whole family is hostages. Have you noticed they do that? They all say that their family or the hostages are their family. Have you noticed they lie like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, they lie about everything. They were saying that girl who's the hostage was 15, and it's one of their fucking official government accounts said she's 21.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people were calling me a fucking pedophile for talking about this girl because they're like, you're talking about a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
She's 21.
Yeah.
Whatever. They lie all the fucking time. Anytime. Israelis lie all the time about everything.
Yeah, about everything.
About everything.
It's so weird because I have a friend of mine who was a little pro-Israel, and she even said some stuff about the October 7th attacks where I was like, I don't know if that's... She said her friend lost some kids. And I was like, are you sure?
You're like, can I see some death certificates?
Yeah.
Can I get some photos of the bodies?
I'm just saying, but I wonder if it's just a part of Israeli culture that they do that.
Yeah, deceiving the goyim.
She also told me that if her friends in the IDF knew that they were bombing hospitals, they would put their rifles down in protest.
Such bullshit.
Yeah. Anyway, do you guys want to join us over on the Patreon? We are going to talk about, I guess, some of Napoleon's military strategy. We'll talk about Sarah Silverman did a little interview.
Oh, I got a good teaser. Is that fucking Congressman Richie Torres was tweeting about me this week.
That was great.
This is one of the craziest things that's happened to me.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Richie Torres and him tweeting about me over at the Patreon.
That was awesome. And also, Truck Boys Moving is the best moving company in the New York City area. If you need any moving services, furniture assembly, clean outs, junk removal, they are a 14-year company that is great. So shoot them an email today.
Yeah.
Truckboys with a Z moving@gmail.com.
Just
helping my friend out with his.
It's very kind of you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
You got to charge. What was I thinking? Oh yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
I would say would you recommend it, Mike? Napoleon the movie?
if you have a kid and you don't only get to the movies once every 2 years, I would say pick something else. I think
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed because it's like I don't get to go to the movies that much, and I was like, oh, this is the movie that I saw. But I don't know. I liked it not knowing anything about Napoleon.
Yeah.
I like that scene where he says to the British, he's like, you think you're so great because you have boats. But some people told me they found that annoying.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, comedy, it's either funny or it's annoying for the attempt.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say if you can see it for free, go see it. I wouldn't spend $20 on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the 4-hour cut, I will definitely watch the 4-hour cut. Maybe he can. That's what happened with like Kingdom of Heaven was another Ridley Scott movie. It got like it was kind of garbage in the theatrical cut, but the director's cut's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's certainly possible. Anyways, Patreon.
All right, patreon.com/outforsmokes. We'll see you over there. Have a good night. God bless. Bye-bye.